All right. Good morning, everyone, both here in Santa Fe and those of you elsewhere. I see my two colleagues up there. I suppose what we ought to do is call the meeting to order. That has just been done, and now call the roll. Commissioner Baker, Commissioner Bluestone, Commissioner Castillo, Commissioner McMillan,
Here.
Commissioner Solomon,
Present.
and Commissioner Villanueva.
Here.
Thank you. Chair is also present, so let the record reflect that we are all met. And item number 2, the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion and a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Commissioner Baker, Commissioner Bluestone, Commissioner Castillo, Commissioner McMillan,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Villanueva.
Yes.
Thank you very much. The agenda is approved. Item number 3 is the approval of the minutes of our May 24th meeting. Is there a motion and a second?
So move.
There's motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Commissioner Baker, Commissioner Bluestone, Commissioner Castillo, Commissioner McMillan,
Yes.
Mr. Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Villanueva.
Yes.
Thank you. The approval, the minutes of the May 24th commission meeting are approved. Next is item number 4, which I will turn over to Ms. Menier and Ms. Branch, the Financial Disclosure Act compliance update. And the chair is yours. Microphone.
Good morning, Chair Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Good morning.
So we're here today not to ask the Commission to do anything, but to give you an update on where we're at in the list of referrals that we received from the Secretary of State's office concerning individuals who are not compliant with the Financial Disclosure Act. As you're aware, every January, the Financial Disclosure Act requires that individuals who are subject to disclosure file their financial disclosure statement. This is the 3rd year that we've received these referrals, and that we've really looked into them. The last several years, we've handled them as an enforcement project that we've come first to the Commission for authority to pursue civil enforcement actions. And given that the Financial Disclosure Act requires that we first seek voluntary compliance, this year we decided to take a different route. We decided to start this as a compliance project. And with that, we were referred 174 names. We broke that down. We were able to identify a large number of individuals who were not required to file, either because they had left their post or because they were, for example, a statutory member who was not required to file because they weren't subject to confirmation by the Senate. The reason we decided to do it this way, last year we really focused on the boards and commissions that hold a lot of money, that control a lot of state funds, and state agency heads. And what we discovered was that we weren't running into individuals who are trying to hide their financial disclosures. That really, it was individuals who thought they had filed, who had tried to file and were unable to. And so because we had such a positive response in the letters that we'd sent out before, we decided this year to tackle the whole list, that these are all individuals who are required to file, or if they weren't, we wanted to be able to cross them off. And so that's where we started on this project. And Becky has been doing a lot of the legwork, and she's really done a tremendous lift on this and an update.
So we broke it down into 3 groups, and we tried to focus on the groups initially that we thought we had more money, that were dealing in kind of more financial discretion. And so that was the first phase of letters we sent out. There was approximately 20. Out of those 20, all but 4 are in compliance now. We did a second and third phase as well. We are now down to 23 non-compliant parties. Some of those we're still trying to confirm their position and if they're still on the board or not. It's been somewhat difficult getting hold of some people, so we're working on it. We're working through it. But it's, I think, been an overall very positive endeavor. And when people get our letters, they respond very quickly and are working very diligently to try to get things done. So I think if we're given a little more time, we can hopefully bring that down to 0. So that's the goal. And that's where we are on that. And for any questions.
Let's check with the folks up here first. Commissioner Bluestone, if you have any questions?
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you for the work and the summary. It sounds good. I just wanted to get a little sense of the historical perspective. When you said that this year there were 174 names that you found that were non-compliant, can you give us a comparison for the last couple of years as to what we started with in that same category?
Commissioner Bluestone. Yes, so we started 174 names. Last year, I believe we referred 122, something like that. And the year before, I want to say was 150, but I would have to go back and get that exact number. I think there were some issues with the campaign or with the CFIS system this year that that it took a little bit longer for people to be able to log in. I'm not sure. I know that the Secretary of State's office was working on getting some of those issues worked out. And so I think that might be a piece of it. And another piece of it, when we did that first cut, I think it was actually about 75 individuals who were obligated to file that were on that list of referrals. So there were about 100 names on there who either were no longer in their position or who are in a position like if you have a 9-member commission and 5 of them are statutory members, they're cabinet secretaries, or they're there because they're the dean of a school, that those individuals are not, they may have separate disclosure obligations, but not by virtue of being on the board. And so there were some individuals there. And as Ms. Branch said, that's one of those things that it's been tough to figure out because there is no sort of master list of who's on these boards and commissions. And so if you're looking at, websites that aren't updated, if you have just a list of 9 names, it's hard to tell which of those individuals might be the statutory members and which ones aren't. And so I think some of those names got put in there because of those difficulties. I think there are close to 700 people who are required to file. And so I think that was something that they were working with as well.
Okay, helpful. Well, thanks. So we're not seeing any particular trend over the last. And in terms of the CFIS, I think is the acronym for the Secretary of State system, we've had chronic problems, it seems, over the. Do you have a sense that things have improved over this year and that there are glitches that are being ironed out, or is this likely to be a recurring problem next year? Ability for people to get on and get this done. I think we've all reported anecdotally difficulties we have faced ourselves.
So Chair, Commissioner Bluestone, I know it's something that's on their radar. I know it's something they're working with their developer. We do intend to try to set up a meeting with them to at least sort of update where our list is at and who we've identified as still being on there. And it's certainly something that we can discuss with them on where they're at with that.
And then Becky, you talked about the financial positions. Initially, there were 20 that were non-compliant, and now you're down to 4.
In the first phase, yeah, that we determined to have more financial discretion than some of the other positions. So
Right.
that was kind of a self-determination that we made.
And then you talked about categories 2 and 3 that are now down to a total of 23 that are non-compliant. Can you explain those categories and what the numbers were that you started with and what you're down to on the.
Yes. So overall, we're down to 23 total. So out of this 174, we're down to 23 non-compliant,
including the 4 of the final.
including the 4 on the financial. And some of the 4 on the ones like that, and how we decided to go about splitting it up. So in the first compliance phase were state agency heads, funds that had financial discretion in how they were spending their monies. That's how we decided to split it up. So that was the first one. The second and third waves we kind of prioritized as having less financial discretion and maybe a little more of an advisory role, but they still had requirements to file their financial disclosures. So that's there's about 20 to 25 in each phase. So we were just trying to break it down into a way that was feasible. And also when they all went to file, it didn't overwhelm the Secretary of State's office in helping them. So that was what we were trying to be cognizant of when we chose to do it in 3 waves. Does that answer your question, Commissioner Bluestone?
Yes, but it raises one other question that I just wanted to ask, and that is, I know we talked about a graduated enforcement procedure where we'd reach out and try to get as much voluntary compliance as possible. Please refresh my recollection. Have we already authorized lawsuits if necessary after we go through the series of voluntary steps, or will you need to be coming back to the commission to get authorization to file a lawsuit for repeatedly non-compliant filers?
I was going to say, we have not requested this year for enforcement action from the commission against this group. That is what we would come back for in September if there are still outstanding non-compliant parties.
Okay.
Yeah, Chair Commissioner Bluestone, I was going to say the same thing, that in order to try to head off the people who are coming into compliance voluntarily, that before we brought that for commission authorization, we wanted to winnow that number down as much as we could, so we could really identify if there are any individuals who really need enforcement action in order to get their compliance.
Okay, thank you both very much.
I would just like to also say that in dealing with a lot of these individuals, they've been very quick to get back to us, quick to try to resolve it. Many of them thought that they had filed. So we haven't really seen kind of, it hasn't been an hostile interaction that they're trying not to file. It's everyone's been really wanting to come into compliance. So I would say that.
Good. Thank you.
Yes, first of all, I want to thank you. Going all the way from 174 to 23 represents a tremendous amount of, and similar to what Commissioner Bluestone has said, I want to thank you very much, because this is something that you just have to stay on top of, probably day in and day out. So job well done. The second question I have, looks like now you all, or the commission, may have the best database for the people that are supposed to be filing. I'm assuming you'll be using this for next year and using it with the Secretary of State and using it as needed to make sure that the word gets out to these people that they need to file, and they just need the follow-up to make sure it happens.
Yeah, Chair Commissioner Castillo, that's correct. So we have a database that we share with the Secretary of State. We'll make sure that's updated. We'll meet with them as necessary, and really go from there on this updated list. And I would also add that a piece of why we wanted to do this project, to approach it this way this year, is there were boards where you could see that it was a number of members on the board, and that it seemed like it was an awareness issue and not necessarily individuals. So there are, of course, individuals, but we've been in contact with executive directors and general counsel of those boards. And so really it was trying to make sure that there's a general awareness for this. And hopefully that means that next year that those numbers do continue to go down. And that's our hope.
Well, again, thank you. Thank you very much. That's all I-
Thank you. Commissioner McMillan,
No questions.
Mr. Baker.
Yeah, I just have a brief comment. I met Colleen Heald, the reporter for the Albuquerque Journal, at Federal Courthouse following the New Mexico Project litigation. And she brought up the question about financial disclosures. And I said something briefly about this agency is reminding people that they need to do it. And it's basically a bureaucratic issue more than anything else. The reason I bring it up is if we want to get some media attention, he'd be somebody to contact. Say, this is what we're doing. This is what we have been doing. This is the places where we think the system might require some improvement. I just throw that out there as a possibility.
And Chair Commissioner Baker, that's certainly something that we've done in the past. That once we have gotten a handle on what enforcement action or what steps we've taken, we have put that out in a press release. We've had contact from other media as well about this, and a piece of it that I would remind the commission about is that the Financial Disclosure Act isn't actually terribly demanding. As you said, it seems to be more of a system issue, a technical problem with getting these filed. But the more problematic issue is that we really need more information on those financial disclosures. And that's something that the commission has recommended in the past is sort of more stringent, more informational financial disclosure statements from public officials. So that's something that we also continue.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Commissioner Solomon, anything?
Nothing further, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. How about you, Commissioner Villanueva?
Oh, I just wanted to say that I appreciate that they've evaluated last year's project process and that they've actually ruled out some assumptions that we made, and they sifted through problems, identified problems, and they've developed new approaches. And I think it's been more successful than last year. And I just want to thank them for it, the work that they've done.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, both of you. And Casey, keep your seat, please. And your next item is advisory opinion number 2024-04.
All right, Chair, Commissioners, this is an advisory opinion concerning the procurement code. Specifically, it concerns section 158A of the procurement code. And 158A provides that no warrant, check, or other negotiable instrument shall be issued in payment for any purchase of services, construction, or items of tangible personal property unless the central purchasing office or the using agency certifies that the services, construction, or items of tangible personal property have been received and meet specifications, or unless prepayment is permitted under section 13-198 by exclusion of the purchase from the procurement code. So there's a lot happening in there. Essentially what it says is that an agency cannot pay for services, construction, or items of tangible personal property until it's certified that they've received it and it's what they intended to get. Last year, the Commission issued an opinion 2023-04, which opined on whether or not a municipality could prepay for a fire truck. And there it was the vendor was offering a discount that if they bought it in advance that they would get it for cheaper. And the commission looked at that and said, no, section 13-158A says items of tangible personal property. A fire truck is an item of tangible personal property, and therefore you can't prepay for it. So following that, we received a series of follow-up requests. The first one asked about 2023-04, and and inquired whether or not the opinion dealt solely with goods because that was the only item to which Section 158A applied, or if it was simply because that was the issue that was presented in the opinion. And the answer is that was because it was the issue presented in the opinion. The 158A makes it very clear that this applies to services, construction, or items of tangible personal property. The plain language of the statute says that multiple times. It includes all three of those, that this prohibition against prepayment applies to services as well as to goods and items of construction. The second question we got was whether a payment structure could be made where the agency paid 50% down and then 50% at receipt. And the answer to that is, again, answered by the plain language of the statute, which says no warrant, check, or other negotiable instrument shall be issued. And that doesn't say anything about unless you can pay half up front. It says no warrant, check, or other negotiable instrument. And so by the terms of the statute itself, it doesn't allow terms to prepay even a piece of that. The third question asked whether this term in Section 158, it says, unless the agency certifies the services, construction, or items of tangible personal property have been received. And it asked what the term received means as it relates to personal property. And in this section, the requester said, the agency has money for this fiscal year. The goods can't be delivered until next fiscal year. What about a term in the contract that says that the item is received under 158 by the vendor once purchase is made, and then the vendor would hold on to it and then ship it? And the answer to that is received means when it's delivered, that when the agency takes possession. And that's answered both by other provisions in the procurement code that talk about personal property delivered on site and received. And I would note this isn't to say that there might not be situations where it doesn't need to be delivered necessarily to the agency office, that if it's part of a larger project and it needs to be delivered on site somewhere else, that might also be sufficient to be delivered on site or received, but it can't be held by the vendor until some later date. And that's really highlighted by the section that talks about certification. And that under those provisions, it requires that the agency say, we got what we paid for. It's the number we want. It's the quality we want. It's not damaged. That those are not possible to make if it's just sitting somewhere else. And that those really protect public funds by making sure that when those items arrive, they're what they're supposed to be. And the final question dealt with a specific sort of services. The specific sort of services at issue were IT, software, hardware licenses, or service agreements, subscriptions for IT services. That if an agency purchases a bunch of laptops and the vendor says, hey, we can provide 3 years of services, we'll give you a discount. And whether or not an agency can prepay for that. And the answer, again, is answered by the text of the statute. So 158A, as I mentioned, has a specific exception for items under Section 98, which it's a number of items that are specifically excluded from the provisions of the procurement code. And the specific exclusion at issue says that specifically exempts from the requirements of the procurement code purchases not exceeding $10,000 consisting of magazine subscriptions, web-based or electronic subscriptions, conference registration fees, or other similar purchases where prepayments are required. And in so doing, the legislature specifically said, yes, you can do this up to $10,000. You can pay for your 3-year contract right up front, so long as it's not over $10,000. If it's above $10,000, you have to start making sure that you're meeting the other requirements of multi-year contracts and so on. And so the answer to that final question is, if the amount is under $10,000, you can prepay for it, and otherwise, you have to go through the other requirements of the procurement code, including payment. With that, I will stand for any questions.
All right. My question relates to whether or not, as we make legislative recommendations to the legislature for the next incoming sessions, if in preparing this opinion, you have a recommendation on whether we as a commission should be considering recommending to the legislature any change in the law to allow for some of these requests. Would that help facilitate the operation of government more effectively and efficiently? And you don't necessarily need to answer it right now, but I'd appreciate some thought at some point on whether, since we do help oversee the procurement code, whether we should be considering recommending any changes in the statute. This thorough opinion that you've.
Chair, Commissioner Bluestone, I don't have any recommendations, but I will think on it. I would note that this is these questions really deal with a tension in the procurement code, or in government generally, I suppose. That really there's an efficiency aspect, but there's also a due diligence and protecting public funds. And that having requirements to ensure that the items that you get are what you paid for. Those seem to be competing interests. You know, you want to make sure that's happening, but you also want to make sure that agencies that have money to pay for things can do that. And so there's really that tension, and I think that's really what they're trying to address in this. And so I don't know that I have any recommendations at this point, but we'll certainly look at it and discuss it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Casey. I thought it was very well done, and I have no question.
Casey, I have one little question. I certainly don't disagree with your answer to the questions, but as a practical matter, if a state governmental agency purchased a 5-year contract costing in excess of $10,000, they're not allowed to prepay for that service contract for software, as an example. Not allowed to do.
Chair, Commissioner McMillan, that's correct.
So what is the workaround, if I may ask, for the governmental agency and those providing the service?
So Chair, Commissioner McMillan, it would be paying for it as you go, progress payments, for example. There's specific requirements under the procurement code about multi-year contracts and the language that you have to have in there. If you have a contract that's larger than $10,000, that's significantly larger than that, it may be something that the agency wants to be able to revisit, that perhaps it's something that no longer serves the agency, that perhaps it's something that they no longer, that the state wouldn't otherwise have funding for. And by prepaying for it, it really eradicates some of those protections that the procurement code otherwise requires.
Okay, thank you.
No question. Thank you.
Commissioner Solomon?
Excellent analysis, Casey. I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Villanueva?
Thank you, Casey. No questions.
Thank you. Casey, a job exceptionally well done. Thanks very much. Quite a bit of an unmuddied lake by the time you cleared it up. Thank you for that. Is there a motion and a second to adopt and issue the advisory opinion?
So moved.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Commissioner Bluestone, or Commissioner Baker, Commissioner Bluestone, Commissioner Castillo,
Yes.
Commissioner McMillan,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Villanueva.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries, and let the opinion issue again. Good work.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right.
Now we go into closed session, so I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to section 10:15(1)(h)(3) and 10:15(1)(h)(7) to discuss the matters identified in sections 6 and 7 of the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I have one question.
Yes.
Before we go into Solomon, I'm scared. Thank you.
Do you have time constraints today, Ron?
I didn't hear the question. I think Stuart was talking. I'm not sure.
He
Oh, I'm
was, and I don't think, maybe it's
That
my
was my
fault.
mistake. Yes,
But,
I did
at any rate, so that we don't let you get away from us without saying our proper goodbyes, do you have a schedule you're running on today that we need to be aware of?
Just a noon schedule back here in Albuquerque. I've got to get someplace by noon. So I kind of anticipated that at some point it would be appropriate for me to sign off. Is this that point, Mr. Chairman?
Okay. Can you give us a ballpark of any kind?
11:30, I think, is really when I
Okay.
need to leave. Yeah.
We'll be fine. Yeah. We'll
Okay.
make sure we get that in. Okay. Thanks, Ron.
All right.
And then
Thank you.
Mr.
My
Chairman,
only other,
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman,
yes.
point of order. Commissioner Bluestone's microphone is cutting on and off.
Right. It's on now.
Okay.
See it. It's green.
my only other question is we usually, think I've asked if anybody wants to make public comment before we go into executive session.
And that may be, it's not on my agenda, so I
Yeah.
missed it, but
I didn't. see
I
any.
will defer to that before we take up the vote on the motion. Is there anybody who wishes to make a public comment now before we go into executive session? Please signal by raising your hand, your virtual hand. Jane, you got anybody? No, I don't see it either. All right, there's been moved and seconded that the commission go into executive session. Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Bluestone,
Yes?
Commissioner Castillo, Commissioner McMillan,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Villanueva.
Yes.
All right, we will let the administrator get us appropriately into.
Are we back in open session? Okay.
May have run to.
Hey, Judy, can you leave the breakout room and go back into the main session? Just click leave room and on the bottom right-hand corner.
There she is. All right. Are we good now, Jane? She's back. Okay, we are back in open session. And I would like to state for the record that the matters discussed in the closed meeting were limited only to those specified in the motion for closure pursuant to 10:15(1)(j). Mexico statutes annotated. Okay. Item number 8. Jeremy?
Okay, commissioners, items number 8, B, and C. Commission staff is seeking approval of settlement agreements in the following cases. 2024-10, which is Gallegos versus Wiener. 2024-15, which is Coconatus versus the Republican Party of New Mexico. And 2024-16, which is Gallegos versus Tobiasen.
Thank you. Is there a motion and a second?
Move adoption?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, Commissioner Baker,
I vote to approve.
Commissioner Bluestone,
Yes.
Commissioner Castillo,
Yes.
Commissioner McMillan,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Villanueva,
It was muted. You said yes.
Commissioner Villanueva. Thank you. Thumbs up is as good as a nod. And the chair votes yes. Motion carries. Next,
Okay, thank you, Chair and Commission. And item 8D, the staff seeks dismissal for certifications of voluntary compliance in cases 2419, 20, 22, and 24 through 33.
thank you. Is there a motion, a second?
Move adoption.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Bluestone,
Yes.
Commissioner Castillo,
Yes.
Commissioner McMillan,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Villanueva.
Okay, we got it.
You were
I think you're
muted.
muted, Judy, but a thumbs up would be, that's a great smile. I will take that as a yes. And chair votes yes. Thank you. Next item.
Thank you, Chair and Commission. The staff seek dismissals for lack of jurisdiction for administrative case numbers 2024-34, 35, and 39.
Thank you. And is there a motion, a second?
So move.
Or a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Bluestone,
Yes.
Commissioner Castillo,
Yes.
Commissioner McMillan,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Villanueva.
Yes.
Thank you. And chair votes yes. The next meeting, by my calculations, would be that for first Friday in October. Is that right, Jeremy?
That is right. We do have an item that
Budget thing?
well, perhaps.
Yeah.
So could we set a regular meeting for first Friday in October? And
Yeah.
if we need to meet quickly separately before then to take care of a couple of matters, could we do that?
Yeah, let's go ahead and set the next regular meeting.
Okay.
And should there be in the meantime reason that we need to convene, then we will alert everybody in plenty of time.
Okay.
So the first Friday in October is October the 4th. Okay. All right. Public comment. Is there anybody here? Raise your electronic hand if you would like to make a public comment. Or I don't see any member of the public in the gallery lot.
Chair, no one is raising their hands.
Nobody's raising their hands. Nobody's doing so in the meeting room. So we are good to go with that. Anything else? Yes, Stuart.
Did you want to give an opportunity?
That's why I'm looking.
Okay. Since this is the last scheduled regular meeting of Commissioner Solomon, wanted to take the opportunity to thank him for standing service, mission, personal pleasure of working with Ron on ethics issues, at least 2006. He and I served on ethics and campaign finance task force, co-chaired by Governor Carruthers and UNL Law School, Carnecchia. We go back a long ways on these issues. Always enjoyed working with Ron. Admired his judgment, demeanor, dedication to public service. I just want to take this opportunity publicly to thank you, Ron, for all you've done on these important issues. And it's been an honor and a pleasure to serve with you. Simply want to say thank you, sir.
Thank you. And before you get rebuttal, Ron, you got to hear from everybody. Okay. So, Commissioner Castillo.
Yes, I haven't known you as long as Commissioner Bluestone has, but in the 3 years that I've been on this commission, it has been an honor and a pleasure to work with you. Your way of approaching the questions, resolving the problems, listening to what we all have to say, and coming up with wonderful approaches to what we do as an ethics commission has been a very positive part of being on this commission. So I too want to thank you for being part of this. Thank you for what you do for New Mexico, and thank you for being the wonderful public servant that you are.
Thank you. Commissioner McMillan?
Ron, I've only recently come to be acquainted with you. I am aware, however, of your long history of public service, and this is just one more aspect of that service. I have really appreciated and respected the way that you've contributed to our meetings in a, how shall I say, objective, fairly reserved way. I really respect that. It's been a pleasure to serve with you.
Thank you.
Mr. Baker?
I don't have anything beyond what's already been said. Ron, you're a good guy. I'm glad I had the opportunity to meet you. And I will see you going forward at the YMCA.
Yeah.
Commissioner Villanueva?
Ron, it's been such an honor to have my name occur next to yours. So I always knew when it was time to my vote, would get ready for my vote when they would call your name. So I will miss that cue. I want to thank you especially for your time. I've heard your calendar, your agenda is just teeming with events and activities. And I know how hard it is to give up your time. And I sensed that it was kind of difficult for you, but something had to be cut from your dance cards, and it was us, unfortunately. But I wish you well in that. I want to thank you especially for the awesome cultural perspectives that you shared with us. I have found them to be so enlightening and wise. And I felt that every opinion you spoke came from very deep and honest reflection. So I want to thank you and wish you and your family the very, very, very best.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Ron, I want to echo that. When you first came aboard, when we started this journey, I soon realized that I was probably the only person with any state government experience that didn't know you, because it soon became apparent that you have been involved on many, many levels at many different types of public service. And I appreciate that, and I commend you for that. And as a chair, I really treasure your calm demeanor, your reflective thoughts that have been wisely and judiciously shared with the rest of us. Hopefully I've learned something from that, as I tend to be a little more quick to react to things and not typically for the better. So I want to thank you for that. Your reputation that I soon learned of after the commission began has been proven to be well-deserved. Godspeed to you and everything that you engage in going forward. And I will miss you, your good thoughts and your good service, your good offices to the commission. Thank you, Ron. And if you'd like to say something, we'd all like to hear from you. If you choose not to, that's certainly your choices.
Oh, sure. Well, I wouldn't want to miss an opportunity to just say how much of a privilege and honor it was when you chose to invite me onto the commission. As Stuart mentioned, we've worked on this for a long time, and so it was kind of something short of a miracle to actually see it implemented and to be a part of the startup and to witness the kind of staff that we have. Starting with Jeremy and everyone that's been a part of the commission staff there. I think we have just a, profoundly and, competent legal and administrative staff there. And it's just amazing to work with you all and see how the commission has become grounded. And part of that is the interaction between us New Mexico citizens to act on behalf of our brothers and sisters out there in the state. And so it's been a real honor to be a part of this. And one part of me, wants to stay, but I know that there's other things that I need to do, and underline need to do. And so I wish the very best to whomever it is that is selected. I know that there's going to be some able-bodied and excellent citizen of the state that'll fill this role, and that will complete the commission once again. So I too wish you all well, good health, happiness, love, everything else that I could think of. And I will miss these gatherings, believe it or not. And I do look forward to seeing you out in the community here and there, different parts of the state. And just wish you all the best. And have a good life. And we'll continue to be in touch one way or another. Since we're all getting sued, I guess we'll be compadres, whether we like it or not. So I look forward to continuing our relationship kind of in a different way. So God bless you all. And, I ask that you continue in your roles. I know that it's a challenge sometimes to dedicate this time, but I think we've all been really consistent, overwhelmingly consistent in being a part of the decision-making processes that we've been involved in. So thank you all. I wish you well, and look forward to seeing you again. Vayos con Dios.
Thank you, Commissioner Solomon, and the same best wishes to you from all of us. We are adjourned.